Greenland, this is the world map. As you know, the moon is the world map, and Greenland is close to Hyperborea and the Arctic Circle. Let's read, and this is the scale. Let's read about Greenland. Greenland lies, this is from pages 58 and 59 of the Vibes of Cosmos, book number 7. Greenland lies mostly north of the Arctic Circle and is separated from the Canadian Arctic archipelago to the west by Davis Strait and Baffin Bay, and from Iceland to the east by the Denmark Strait. It is a continuous plateau with many peaks, some of which exceed 2,000 meters. Fjords form along all its coasts. Many of them penetrate very deeply into the land. Often blocks of ice fall into the waters of the fjords and are carried away by sea currents, while numerous rivers flow onto the coast or from lakes, often larger in the interior. And this is for you to understand the scale. So again, these 5 rectangles here are 2,500 kilometers. So pretty much Greenland has roughly, I would say roughly 2,000 to a bit more than 2,000 kilometers from one stretch to another. So it's lots of land, and it's close to Hyperborea, which is off limits. Greenland is also off limits, and here you can see. So Greenland is this bit of land, and you can see that the difference in size between Greenland and Africa, and also you can compare Greenland with North America, South America, and Australia and Eurasia, even Greenland compared to Atlantis here and Lemuria. Well, the best way to compare Greenland is to Africa, because on the typical map of the world that we have to study in school because we're forced to, you see Greenland so huge, so stretched, right? Where this is the actual size of Greenland compared to Africa and to the rest of the world. Even Hyperborea is so small compared to Africa or like to other places in the world. But yeah, Greenland is Greenland. Well, Greenland and Hyperborea are pretty much, if you put together all the 4 continents of the 4 islands of Hyperborea, you pretty much have almost the size of Greenland. But yeah, this is the Arctic Circle, what we call the North Pole. So as you can see, also parts of the territories of northern Russia are off limits, and also parts of the territories of Canada are off limits as well. And Greenland only has, check this out, is he here? So this is important because we don't realize this on the typical map that we are forced to study, which is an insult to human intelligence. Look at this. Greenland has this size here. So this is where people live, where the ports are. But yeah, these ports, like, do you see the how easy it is to go from the United States of America, from the USA to Greenland? Super easy. That's why the USA. Do you understand now why the USA is so interested in having like control over Greenland? Because geopolitically speaking, Greenland is pretty much in the operations area of the United States of America. So more than Denmark, quite. So even more than Scandinavia. So from the US to go to Greenland here, especially to the part of Greenland which is habitable, because there's no ice. Look at this. The ports here are pretty much just like in a straight line from the USA, from North America. And of course, the awesome thing would be to go from Greenland in a straight line to Atlantis. So check this out, in a straight line from Greenland to Atlantis, also from Iceland. But what about if you go in a straight line from Greenland on the ocean and go to this continent here, right? Check this out. It's like a lot of distance. So I don't know, like so this is the distance here, 2,000 kilometers. My gosh, in a straight line, pretty much like 6,000 kilometers. So a bit more than 2,000, something like 10,000 kilometers. Let's put 10,000 kilometers or 8,000 kilometers in a straight line. You would get to this continent here. It's off limits. So do you understand now the importance of having a map that first allows you to know the difference in size of the continents, and also allows you to know the distances between the lands and the oceans and the waters, and it allows you to understand the actual facts of the world. So we've seen in the recent months with the operations of the USA in Greenland, and it makes perfect sense why the USA is so focused on Greenland. Literally, this makes more sense like all the sense of the world in terms of the connection, geographically speaking, between the USA and Greenland, then then we see it at the levels of the fake map that we have to study at school on the spinning globe. In all honesty, it makes perfect sense for the USA to have like a NATO relationship with Europe, because there's like a direct connection on the Atlantic Ocean, but also it makes sense because Hyperborea and Greenland are here. So if the USA has a control over Hyperborea and Greenland, it's direct connection with Europe, right? Even though Russia is here in the north. But then again, we don't know who lives in Hyperborea and in Greenland, so that's just something I just said because I like geography and I like to look at the situation from this perspective of distances and geographical connection. Still, Canada is also very important, and Russia here as well. But then again, the connection on the Atlantic Ocean is straightforward. So on the Atlantic, it's free. It's like there's no interference, so the USA can move around this area freely with no problem whatsoever. That's why it's called the North Atlantic, the Atlantic Organization Treaty, right? North Atlantic Treaty, because it is the Atlantic. If it was the Pacific, for example, if the United States of America would make a treaty with Lemuria, right, it would be the Pacific. Imagine like saying, instead of North Atlantic, you would say NPTO, right? The North Pacific Treaty Organization. So it makes perfect sense. And the other stuff to bear in mind is the fact that from Greenland, if you would just be allowed to go to Hyperborea, it would be so easy. But then again, you see all these lakes here. It's a huge amount of lakes in Greenland, so I don't even know what to find here because there's no exploration whatsoever. But it's just surprising how close Greenland is to Hyperborea, the same as like the Canadian islands, our Canadian archipelago, and also the Russian continent is super close to Hyperborea. Who lives here and what kind of like humanities, if there are any humanities or not, we don't know. We are so ignorant. The Antarctic, we speak about Antarctica a lot. Antarctica is like all these continents at the edges, right, of what the moon map is showing. But then this is the Arctic Circle, right? So imagine like the amount of land you could have here. We don't know if everything is ice or just like a part of it is ice, but it makes perfect sense to be astonished and attracted to not just Antarctica, which is also, of course, at the edges of the world and the Antarctic Treaty, but also what's closer to us than Antarctica, especially for those who live in North America, Russia, and north of Europe, right? So, and even Europe. Look at this, like the distance between Greenland and okay, it's kind of like bigger. So it's from here to Europe. It's like pretty much 2,000, even 2,500 kilometers, but it's not that big of a difference in distance. If you would just take a typical electric flying vehicle, even if you had to take a jet. So, but unfortunately, we're not the military, so everything is off limits for us. So I hope you enjoyed this Arctic Circle, Greenland, North Pole stuff. Thanks to Vibes of Cosmos and the Moon Map, and I'll see you guys in the next video with more interesting stuff. Take care.